Good morning, everybody. I wanted to start the show off today with something fun. So here goes before we get into the breaking discoveries. Let's take a look. This is funny. Oh my gosh, where's the sound?
All right, stop. Forget the polls and listen. Donnie's back with an ancient invention. Do this. If you need public support, just fake your own hit and treat it as a sport.
Was it ever real, yo?
Hell no, but people like to root for the underdog, so if you need a problem, yo, just fake it. Create a spectacle and let the lefties take it.
False flag. You can't make this up. Some of this stuff is just classic, and I'll put a link to that for those of you that are into that kind of stuff. But let's get into something far more serious, because there's something about Trump that is different from every other president. I finally found the missing link to Trump's bloody toe slave ritual from the Old Testament. Now we're going to get into the Bible today. We're going to link that in to this brand new breaking and major discovery for the first time pretty much in the history of our country. Kind of interesting that we're coming up on the 250th year, and it took this long to finally realize what I'm going to show you today. Now, in order to set the stage for this discovery, I need to back up and show you how I got here. A few shows ago, I played a re-upload of this giant needle in Washington, D.C. Let's back this up here. Here you can see the giant needle outlined in red. It outlines the Capitol building, and then it moves across the landscape at 88 degrees. Here you see the plunger of the needle. Capitol building goes down the mall to the Washington Monument needle, and the tip is essentially pointing to the Lincoln Memorial. And I told you that the Lincoln Memorial and Abraham Lincoln, he was the first needle president. We went over that. The hypodermic needle was invented to inject the soldiers with opium for their pain. And I also told you that this was the stinging of America, that this giant needle formed the stinging of America, setting the stage for future injections. I then showed you how there was a highway down here that pierces a heel. See this here? See this highway in the lower right corner? It forms the neck of a serpent. And you can actually see the eye of the serpent here, and the fangs piercing into what appears to be a foot in blue. So in red is the serpent piercing the foot, stinging America. Now, all of this fulfills biblical prophecy, because that foot that you just saw, let's back this up so you can see this again. There's the heel, bruising the woman in the heel. In this case, she's pierced twice. The heel is pierced twice, bitten by the serpent underneath in red, and in the back of the heel with the alignment of the Washington Monument needle that terminates at the Lincoln Memorial. And then there's something else. The White House becomes the stump of the foot, a severed foot. Remember all those severed feet that they said kept washing up on the shores everywhere? Well, there's the White House at the stump of the foot. It becomes the stump of the severed foot, which is the basis of pretty much everything that Roger at Mud Fossil University and I both came to final conclusions in different ways. He said these were severed limbs that were tree stumps, like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. But essentially, we were saying the same thing. We were both saying that these were limbs, severed limbs, trees are tree stumps and they're severed limbs, essentially. Look at this foot, you guys. This is unbelievable. Now I'm going to go into Google Earth. This is actually a playback video through a screen record, because when I'm in Google Earth trying to do this, it can be a memory hog and interrupt the stream. So I recorded it, pre-recorded it for you, but we will go into Google Earth at the end of the show. Now, we haven't even gotten to the new information yet, okay? So let's let this play again. So we've got 2 piercings. We've got the serpent underneath piercing the heel. We've got the needle behind from the Capitol building, okay, piercing this foot in the landscape. Now, all this was built intentionally, and we had covered all of this in previous videos. Well, here's what else I found that is pretty fascinating. And here is the breaking and major discovery. Remember the Trump priestly ritual from the Bible of the right ear, the right thumb, and the right toe? Except we were missing the right toe. He had already fulfilled the right ear. That was the gunshot or whatever. He had already fulfilled the right thumb, because we saw him with a bloody thumb. This was like last year or maybe the year before. Well, guess where Trump's arch will be positioned? It literally strikes the toe. This blue toe that you see on your screen. Trump's arch strikes the toe. What am I talking about? Well, the arch is to the right of your screen. I'm about to zoom in on it in this video. It points to the blue toe. Wow, there's the heel. Let's keep going to the toe here. I'm just showing you another angle of the snake biting the heel. Wow, let's back up a little bit. Hold on. See how clear that is? That's the snake biting the heel. You see the fangs, you see the eye. Now, let's get to the toe. There's the toe. And the circle here is where Trump's arch will go. It points right into the toe where the Lincoln Memorial is. And it now completes the slave ritual. Now, you're probably wondering, how? If Trump's arch is here in the center of your screen, how is this cutting the toe that we see to the left? Well, behind all of this, behind where Trump's arch will be, is the JFK Memorial. And of course, the bullet that killed JFK. Here's the memorial back here. The Q is right here. The bullet that killed JFK travels through the arch and hits the toe. Trump toe ritual complete. Now, here's what blew my mind. There's the Lincoln Memorial toe. Because there's a story behind Lincoln's big toe. Lincoln had Marfan's syndrome, which caused him to have a prominent big toe. As you can see in this JAMA article here from 1966. Wait a minute. 1966. Guess what angle Trump's, or actually the Q Memorial and Trump's arch, what is that red line? That's a 66-degree line from the Q Memorial right through Trump's arch, which you can't see yet because I couldn't find a 3D model of it, striking the big toe. Now let's get into this JAMA article. It says here, Lincoln's feet were long and narrow with extraordinarily exaggerated big toes. CBS News, 2006. What caused Lincoln's clumsy gait? Again, Marfan's sufferers, this is a Marfan syndrome, often have unusual height and elongated toes, fingers, and limbs, all characteristics of Lincoln. In fact, in Kentucky, Lincoln's left toe kept gleaming. People would rub it for good luck. It's apparent we have found the biblical big toe slave ritual connection to Donald Trump. Now, let's go to the Bible. Let me check in with you guys and we're going to get into the Bible. Because this is insane. Please thumbs up the video this morning, you guys. No one's going to see this breaking discovery unless you guys all share it on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere else. Let's go through the 13 mentions of toes in the Bible, and you're not even going to believe this. Exodus is the first time that this ritual is mentioned. It says, you shall kill the ram and take some of its blood and put it on the tip of your right ear of Aaron and on the tip of the right ear of his sons and the thumb of their right hand and on the big toe of their right foot, and sprinkle the blood all around on the altar. Leviticus. Again, it's kind of a repeat. Aaron's right ear, right thumb, big toe on the right foot. Leviticus again repeats. This was the priestly ritual. Okay, same again in Leviticus 14:14, 14:17, 14:25, Leviticus 14:28. Then we get to Judges 1:6. Adonai Bezek fled, and they pursued him and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Judges 1:7, another severed big toe. 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off, used to gather scraps under my table. As I have done, so God has repaid me. Then they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. 2 Samuel. Yet again there was war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. This was a giant, a Nephilim. He was born to the giant. 1 Chronicles. Again, another giant with 24 fingers and toes. Daniel. Whereas you saw feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. And there is the secret to it all. Daniel's prophecy. The feet and toes representing the final kingdom before Christ's return. It's not an accident or a mistake that we are now in the priestly rituals and slave rituals. That has to be connected to Daniel and the toes made of iron and clay. The kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. Wow. Now, did I cover the slave ritual? Because there's the priestly ritual and then there's a slave ritual that is essentially the same thing. The right ear, the right toe, and the right thumb. Now, what else is going on? Now, here's the question. How did it take 250 years since the founding of this country to finally make this aerial discovery? Hiding in plain sight. How is it that only the people on this channel can see this? Well, I think God wants us to see this. Now, there are some rabbis that have come out and recognized that Trump's ear-piercing ritual was part of the Old Testament, except they're trying to repackage it as Trump being holy, bringing about the end of America and the rise of Israel as the leader of the world. You've all seen the video of the rabbi saying this. I can't remember if he said that before or after we discovered the priestly ritual. In the beginning, it sounded silly when Trump was shot through the ear. And I don't know if we were the first ones to talk about it, but we definitely talked about it days after his ear was pierced. And now these rabbis are coming out and saying that this was a priestly ritual, except they say that it's to bring about the end times, and that Trump is somehow some kind of catalyst to that. But no, Trump is the opposite of holy priests of the Old Testament. The ritual was a slave ritual to the country that he is truly beholden to. That's when things changed, or so they want us to believe. Now, something crazy happened last week that also fits into all of this and confirms everything I just showed you. It's a story that I almost missed. Needles and piercings related to the beehives. What am I talking about? Well, you'll all remember that a bee landed in Trump's hand. Didn't sting him, but it landed in his right hand. And this happened about a few weeks after, let's see, I guess it wasn't a few weeks, it was a few days after Melania Trump's 56th birthday, in which she announced the White House beehive. Here it is right here, April 24th. Let's take a look at this video. I'm going to turn the sound off just because I'm not sure. Let's see, can we turn the sound off? Now here's another major discovery. This is crazy. Let's turn the sound off. This is a scale model of the White House turned into a beehive. And it was announced on April 24th. They actually have made honey out of this hive. White House honey. You can imagine how much this costs. If you were to want to purchase some White House honey, I can imagine it probably costs a fortune. But more importantly, Melania Trump was behind this. This announcement was made 2 days before her 56th birthday. But more importantly, the date of April 24th. Here it is right here, the 114th day of the year, with 251 remaining. The mirror date is the 251st day of the year with 114 remaining, and that date is September 8th. Do you know the significance of September 8th? Let's go into the chat, see who gets the answer, and I'll give you guys a minute. Remember, this is about bees and queens. Does anyone know the significance of the mirror date of April 24th when this was announced and September 8th? Good morning, everybody. September 8th, is the Queen of England's date of death. Yes, the Queen of England died on September 8th in 2022. She picked the mirror date to announce the rising of the White House bees. So we were on to something, weren't we? So again, shortly after that was announced, yes, the Queen died on September 8th. Yes, thanks. This must be behind. Shortly after this was announced, this bee lands on Trump's hand, does not sting him, which suggests that spiritually the hive is nearly complete. The data hive center. Now, on yesterday's show, I showed you this overlay of a carpenter bee, which looks a lot like what you see in DC. You can even see the wingspan. Now, what is this all about? Well, we did a series of videos on all this, didn't we? About the hive matrix run by 5G and soon 6G, total surveillance control. The hive appeared in the film The Man Who Fell to Earth. We covered that. There were beehives in that. The hive matrix. We also covered it in Westworld. AI. Remember, there was the hive-like vessel monument. Looked like a giant beehive. We covered that. And we saw that it actually appears in the Westworld, one of the final seasons. This hive is up like on a 5G pole and controls the robots of Westworld. So we were on to something, weren't we? Because it is now complete. The White House hive mind. Now, at this point, let's show you this. Here's Melania's birthday, 2 days before she would be 56, is when they announced the hive. Here's Trump with the bees. He called them vicious bees. This was on May 1st, the founding of the country, right? Do you see how all this fits in now? May 1st, Illuminati Day, 1776, which is 888 plus 888. And when you look at the number 88, it seems to appear in the hive matrix. See the eights? 8, 8, 8, it's all eights. So Trump spiritually knew what he was talking about, didn't he? Now I overlaid some of these images. We're going to go back into Google Earth. What I want you to notice, this is actually from a hornet, are these 3 dots in the pineal position of the hornet. They form an inverted pyramid, don't they? Now, let me check with you guys. We'll get into Google Earth, and I'm going to show you all of this. And if there are any parts that you want me to zoom in on, we can do that as well. But let's show you this here. Okay, now you can see Google Earth. Now let's zoom in on this. And here you see JFK. This is aligned to 66 degrees. Now this is on a hill, and this all drops down in elevation, which is why you see that the line is a bit crooked. But there's the JFK Memorial. Let's go through this. It's shaped like a Q. Q is also K, Kennedy, Kennedy. Aligned to 66 degrees. Goes right through Trump's arch. Hits the big toe of the Lincoln Memorial, which is where the needle of the Washington Mall terminates. There you can see the huge hypodermic needle going right through the center of the foot in blue. There's the Washington Monument. There is the snake biting the heel. And there you see the snake, his neck or body goes off onto that highway on the right. This yellow line is 88 degrees, forms a ley line. There is the Capitol building, and there you see the plunger of the needle. Now, we all know that this is also an owl, but this is a nested reality, things within things. Just like the severed foot is also a tree stump, this is also an owl and a carpenter bee. So let's zoom this out. You can see the mandibles opening. Now let's turn some of this off and start to phase in some of these images. Because I had a couple different hornet faces that kind of fit this. You can see the wings fanning out to the right and left. See how it looks like flapping wings? Let's turn off the syringe. Turn on the carpenter bee. Turn off the 3D. So now you can see this. Now we're going to phase this carpenter bee in and out. And there you see it. See the eyes, the mandibles, which are clearly insectoid mandibles, the wings flapping. Now I got some other images here that, let's zoom this in now that you have your bearing. Now again, this is an owl, but it's also a bee. There you see the eyes, mandibles open. The antenna above. Here's another one. Now, what is this about? Well, this bee is not a carpenter bee. This bee is a carpenter bee. You'll notice the eyes are more prominent and forward-facing. And I had to look this up because I didn't know why. And carpenter bees are a little bit different than regular bees. Why are they different? Well, their eyes are like this. They're adapted this way to fly in dim light. To fly in dim light. Now, ironically, carpenter bees are not hive bees. They are solitary, and they live inside of a hole that they drill into wood instead of a hive. In other words, this bee, you could say, is like the silent ruler. It doesn't need the hive. It stands alone, hunts at night at dusk. So creepy. See the mandibles here? You can see the mandibles on each side, the huge prominent eyes, and the antenna above. Now, what makes this strange is that the carpenter bee and hornets have an inverted form of a pyramid in the ocelli position. They're basically receptors that pick up light. Let's see, let's look at this other one, carpenter bee. Here you see it clearly. See these 3 dots in the forehead? It's an inverted pyramid. And these pick up light. Now, what makes this strange is that it is sitting inverted above and below. The mandibles cause an inverted pyramid. So you have an above in the ocelli position of the forehead, the pineal position, mind control. And then there's an inverted pyramid below formed by these 2 roads. And I believe that this is the hive mind controlling the rest of America. Right? It's the hive mind in the pineal position of the carpenter bee controlling the rest of America because it's inverted. And what's crazy is you can even see the eye structure. You know, the eyes are like screens. Let's zoom this in and get this right for you guys. This is insane. I can't even believe all this. Now I want you to look at the lawn and how it's mowed. See how the lawn is mowed to look like the screens of insect eyes. Simply insane. You can literally see the screen of the insect eyes. Now, let's extrapolate this out, because if what we are seeing is the truth, then what other connections could we derive from this? Well, we have a series of reflecting pools, don't we? This one down here is the capital reflecting pool. And guess what? What do bees eat? They eat nectar. Reflecting nectar. They both have ECT inside the word. Nectar reflecting. Now, what is nectar? It is the gold. It is how they harvest our labor through gold. Now, how can this be, as they say? Pun intended. How are we seeing all of this? Well, God has apparently given us eyes to see. Now, what does the prefix ECT mean? Nectar, reflecting. What does that mean? It means outside of. Outside of. So, ectoskeleton is a skeleton on the outside that insects have. Reflecting means that the image is bounced off. The image is outside. It suggests that there is something hidden inside. And we can now see what was hidden inside. Now, there's the sphere of control. You ready for this? See the triangle emanating out from the queen bee, or not queen bee, I guess it's a carpenter bee. Ooh, carpenter. The builders, the Freemasons. Jesus was the first, well, he was the carpenter, but he was the true cornerstone. And the Freemasons have become the fake or false Christ, the false cornerstone. And this is why they built all of this, hidden in plain sight. Now, if you look at what's in the mandibles of the bee, this pyramid emanates, now follow me on this, let's zoom this out, essentially controls all of America from DC, from East Coast all across the United States. It forms a giant triangle going outwards. So now you see the truth. Finally. You know, it was really stumping me, I guess, pun intended, as to where this big toe was. But we found it. We finally found it. And there's the triangle. You could see the sphere of influence. Wow. Now, what else do we have while we're here? Giant bee. Wow. Well, this Capitol Greenway here, I guess you call it the mall. They call this the mall, right? It extends down and connects to the needle. Again, it aligns to 88 degrees, and it has a twin or sister alignment, which is the Vatican. It also aligns to 88 degrees halfway across the world. Its rotunda and obelisk also aligned to 88 degrees, just like DC. Same thing. Well, the number 88 is essentially a honeycomb, as I showed you a little bit earlier. It's a series of 88s all connected together. That is the matrix that we are stuck in. It is the trap. It is the prison. Now, this was always about the piercing or stinging of the heel of the seed of the woman. The very first prophecy of the entire Bible. This is how they control humanity. Piercing the heel. Now, I want to take this opportunity to ask you guys what you would like to look at this point. I'm pretty stunned right now about all of this. Look at this. There's Trump's right in the toe. Let me go back into the chat. See what you guys are up to. Is 88 degrees where they fold the tesseracts? Yes, 88 is about time travel. The needle is the phallus, the dome is the womb. Yes, because the needle is the synthetic version of the injection of the serpent seed. Males have a phallic, the serpent has a needle. That's how he does it. Good observation, Dale. And the rotunda is symbolic of the seed of the woman, which is her follicle, her ovum, the seeds inside the womb. It's also symbolic of the womb and all of that. Absolutely. Now, was any of this confusing to you? Because to me, it's about as straightforward as you can get. And we can, again, double down in Google Earth if there's any places that you guys want me to look at. Look up the San Jacinto Monument. Is that in DC? 88 constellations? Yes, that is the Mazzaroth. 88 books originally in the Bible and 88 keys on the piano. Yes, the original Ethiopian Bible has 88 books. Yes, there were bees in the X-Files. You guys, we've done probably about 50 videos, 50, about the bees. Going back to the infancy of this channel, because we knew it was important. Aren't there also bees at the Vatican? Isn't there like a hive or something at the Vatican, if I remember correctly? Or bee symbolism? So now you know why. It's the hive matrix. It's the 88. That's why the Vatican is aligned to 88 degrees. Yes, the Vatican is a serpent wearing a crown. Okay, well, let's go to the Vatican so I can show you this. Vatican. The 88 degree alignment. It's rotunda and it's needle. There it is right there. Now, others have found that there's a serpent wearing a crown. I did not find that. Some have found a frog in this, but there's the rotunda and there is the obelisk. Let's turn the 3D back on so you can see the obelisk. There's the rotunda and obelisk there. 88 degrees. Wow. All right. Pregnant serpent wearing a crown. Thanks, Max. That's why Netanyahu's name is Bibi. Wow. It's a dual meaning. Moon Lotus says it's a keyhole. Yes, it's that too. Remember, there's always several meanings. Why do they do that? Why do they have several meanings? To cause confusion. It's Babylon. So one person finds one meaning, but in order to discredit that, they have 2 or 3 other meanings baked in so that people fight and argue about it. And when I finally woke up to that, I realized that many of us were saying the same thing in a different way. And that's when you finally wake up, like with Mud Fossil University. He kept saying it was a severed foot. Well, I was like, you're just saying that because you don't want to know that it's a tree stump. But then I thought about it, like, we're saying the same thing. What do you think they call it when you get your foot cut off? They call it a stump. It's the same thing. Wow. Okay. Yeah, Utah used the beehive in its state symbols. All railroads lead to Rome. BB is 2-2. Yes, this is Babylon. It's insane. When you finally wake up to it, let's go back in here. Let's go back to DC. Wow. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to toggle on and off these images so that you can clearly see the lines for yourself. Now, of course, there's the inverted pentagram pointing down into the tree stump of the foot, right? Let's zoom this up for you guys. And this pentagram mirrors the giant pentagram of ley lines that we found across the United States. One of those ley lines is the yellow line on your screen. That is the crossbar. Here, let's zoom out so you can see this. See the yellow line going to your left? It forms the crossbar of this giant pentagram of ley lines that we found across the United States. There it is. Now let's go back to DC. It has its own pentagram that everybody knows about. This was discovered years ago. We did not make that discovery. Other people saw that there's a giant pentagram right above this foot, pointing down into the foot. It's an inverted pentagram. See it? So now we know that this is important. It all points to the Capitol building, which is the top of this tree stump. Now let's turn on and off the outline so you can see the foot and the serpent for yourself. So you know I'm not just telling you what to see. So there you see the outline of the foot. And of course, there's some variations on this. You could, like for instance, over here, you could follow this highway down and to make it more of like a rounded foot with the toe, I suppose. Okay, so this isn't exact, but there's clearly a foot there. Let's zoom in a little bit more so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, let's turn it on and off. There's clearly a foot there, isn't there? All you do is follow the highways, follow the roads. There's clearly a toe there, the Lincoln Memorial, a heel, an ankle. Okay? Whoa. Now, let's look at this snake down here. And I'm going to spin this around so you can see it a little bit better. But this clearly looks like a snake biting the heel. Let's turn this on and off so you can see this. See that? All I did was outline the road. The snake is biting the heel. Now, how about this hypodermic needle? Let's take a look at that. We're going to hit it from this angle. Go through the whole foot into the Lincoln Memorial. Let's turn that on and off. See that? Whoa. Let's zoom in a little bit. That is the Capitol. These things emanating out here are for the fingers. So you put your fingers when you use a hypodermic needle. Now the only lines I extrapolated were connecting the Washington Mall to the Capitol building. Those are the only ones I really filled in, as they say. But it's all outlined by roads through the heel of the foot into the toe of Lincoln. Trump's arch piercing the toe. Okay, I think we just about beat that to death. Now, is there anything else you guys want me to look at? Okay. Capitol building looks like a Roman temple. Yes. Thanks, Let's Fish Almighty. Kind of looks like the neck of a guitar, too. Yes. A wider image will show you more symbolism in DC than on money. Thanks, Lolas. Or the handle of a great sword. Yes. Kind of looks like that, doesn't it? Beyonce and Beehive. Yes. She is the queen bee of music. I don't know how at this point in history, but that's the name she kind of gives herself. Thanks, Mike. Now, understand that a lot of this work came from you guys. You guys inspire me to do this, and some of you have come up with little clues and breadcrumbs over the years that have led us to these major discoveries. DC hasn't really been changed much since Trump decided to build arches and temples. We are at the end. Yes, I believe so, Ted. We are in the toes of Daniel. Max sees it much better at that angle. Awesome. My dad was blanked on 2nd Street, only blocks away. I wonder if it's part of the scheme, says Raw Jones. Thanks, Karen. Tuning fork, says Bill. So what does this mean? Well, I think if I had to guess, because our gift here is exposing the symbolism, but not really deciphering exactly what it means, because none of us know the future. Okay, let me give you what I think this is all about, okay? These people are the false carpenters. They rejected Christ's cornerstone to make their own, to be kings on earth. All of this goes back to the rejection of God in place of kings. So this is the seat of power, isn't it? This is where we vote. This is where the king lives. Trump is a king. That's the reason for all the gold. And all of this, it's not just about Trump. It's about the literal founding of this country, the hive that we are in. 888 years plus 888 years, 1776 years. That's a hive. They built all of this spiritually to contain us and divide us. So all of this is about division, the right-left paradigm. They built the entire system is built to keep us divided and lost in the beehive, lost in the matrix. The triangle is the sphere of control from the queen bee or the carpenter bee. It has dominion. It flaps its wings, right? And has this sphere of control that emanates out from its mandibles. We're inside the mandibles of this thing. Okay. And it's satanic. That's why we've got this giant pentagram inverted pointing right into DC. It's Luciferian, built on their sacrificial system, which is Epstein Island and others. They essentially blackmail the people at the top. This is why almost all of Trump's cabinet is in the Epstein files. Lutnick and all these people and all his rich billionaire friends are literally listed in the Epstein files. What was it? Dr. Oz is in the Epstein files. All of them. They're all in the Epstein files. Okay? It's blackmail. So we're under this Luciferian system. They create ley lines out of this. The main ley line is this 88th ley line, this yellow line going across the United States, which forms the cross member of the huge pentagram. And this is where they carry out mass sacrifice. We found the center of this pentagram, which is where the West Memphis 3 were, which was all about more pentagrams. Satanic Panic is at the very center of this pentagram. And there's a giant dragon that's crowned underneath the pentagram. Let's zoom out here. So we've kind of been telling you what it all means all along, but you just have to like understand what it's about, okay? I'm kind of repeating myself, but if you want to know what it's about, I'm kind of telling you. Here's the center of the pentagram. This is where the West Memphis 3 bodies were found. They found 8 and 8-year-olds. There were 3 8-year-olds, 888. So that confirms everything we just said. They were found right here in West Memphis at the center of the pentagram. There's a giant dragon. Here you see his head and his mouth open. This is Quetzalcoatl. And let's see if we can find that. Okay, I gotta go down here. Let's put Quetzalcoatl in here. There he is. Roger Mud Fossil University found this. That's Quetzalcoatl. And he is crowned by an antiprism, which is the shape of the One World Trade Freedom Tower. It's also the shape of a sulfur molecule. And it's also the shape that you get when you take a pentagram, fold up the legs, take another pentagram, fold down the legs, and you stick them inside each other, twin pentagrams. That forms an antiprism, which is what you're looking at on your screen. We also found a series of eclipses from 2017, marking Trump's first and second presidencies. There was another eclipse in 2024. That's the second presidency. And then eclipses going off into the future all the way to the year 2099, which form another pentagram right next to this one. Pentagrams within pentagrams. We are Babylon. And then we plotted all the cities along these ley lines where mass sacrifice happens regularly. Asheville, the flooding, Roanoke, Louisville, Augusta, Savannah, Georgia Guidestones, Atlanta, Georgia, Montgomery, Mobile, Alabama, the huge hurricanes that killed a bunch of people, St. Petersburg, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Mar-a-Lago, Epstein Island, they're all on the ley line, New Orleans, mass sacrifice, Shreveport, there was just a shooter, Tyler, Texas, here's where the JFK assassination happened, Waco, Texas, Austin, Texas, Corpus Christi. Remember didn't that singer Selena die in Corpus Christi? There's Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. He forms the foundation of the pentagram. Then we have over here Zorro Ranch, Albuquerque, Fort Stanton, Chaco Canyon, Amarillo, Wichita, Topeka, Omaha. So we've already gone through all that. I'm just kind of summarizing all this for any new people. Now, there's no possible way one person could just make all this up with pareidolia. There's no possible way. Here's another crowned serpent from I Am Legend. There is the Shelby Cobra, which is a snake, serpent, Mustang, pulls in underneath the crown as he's hunting for deer. Crowned serpent. Now later in the shot, the camera pans up and you see the deer running along what would be the body of the snake down the street. Crowned serpent. Only spiritual eyes can really see some of this stuff, but that's what we're all here doing, right? We're all looking at this going, what the heck? It's clear. Okay, what else, you guys? Anything else you guys want to look at? Topeka zip code is 666. Wow. Fort Union, yes. So that's what it all means. We're at the toes of steel and watery clay of Daniel. This has to be. the very end of it all. Remember that Roger doesn't believe we are a flat plane, though. Yeah, I've learned to kind of, for a long time, I just tried to work with channels, and then I got burned a couple times. And I'm not blaming those channels. I'm just, sometimes people have different beliefs. And then unfortunately, the people that follow, they start to associate you with those channels. Okay. And when that channel's moving in a different direction, you don't want to be associated with that. So I don't know what Roger's beliefs are. I've heard people say he's not a Christian. I don't know any of that. Okay. What I do know is that he showed the serpent, and he's right on the money with that. And what I do know is that some of these, like the Devil's Tower, let's look at the Devil's Tower. That's a good one to look up in Google Earth or 3D. Let's go to the Devil's Tower. He says this is a severed foot. I say it's a tree stump, and we're both correct. Let's take a look. Devil's Tower, Wyoming. We all have seen this. This is, let's turn on the 3D, see if that makes a difference. Okay. Devil's Tower. Packed columnar basalt with a flat top. Look at that. That is spooky. This is from Close Encounters of the Third Time. Roger says this is a foot. Tree stump, same thing. Each one of these, like what he calls ligaments, they also double as perfect hexagonally packed column basalt, which forms another hive matrix. What am I talking about? Well, let's look it up. Columnar basalt looks like a beehive. Whoa. You can see it better on the top. I don't know if anyone's allowed to climb on top of this thing, but they look like perfect hexagonal matrix. The beehive. It's a below and it's above. This is why I believe the firmament looks like this as well. We're trapped in here. It's under our feet and it's in the firmament. This matrix. Now there's a way out. It's Jesus Christ. But that's at the end of our life. Some of us may see him coming in the clouds. Others will die before that happens, but you'll wake up in his arms. And that's how that works. So. All right. Anything else, you guys? Oh, here, let's go here. Let's do this. Let me show you the packed hexagonal matrix. Okay, let's go to the browser. There's the browser. Okay. Column basalt. Okay. Now, this stuff is all over the world. It's like literally the bedrock. See how it looks like a honeycomb? It's the 88, but here's the thing. This is the hex. Hexagonal. The beehive. Ready for this? 88 is 66. Let's type it in the chat. What are you talking about, Casey? 88 is 66. What have they been talking about? Trump, just put some guy in jail because he said 86. How is 88 66? Well, look at this. Look at this stuff. Whoa. Let's show you why 88 is 66. Okay, here's a really good image of some of this stuff. Okay, see how they all have 6 sides? Well, there you see an 88 right there. 88 is 66. That's the top of the 8, the bottom of the 8, the top of the 8, the bottom of the 8. Wow. Wild. Topeka is 66601. 88 is twin. $22 is the difference. Good one, Raw Jones. BB is the difference. The 22. Yes, get off of the wide path. Okay. 88 is a 4-leaf clover. Yes. I'm a twin. I'm 44. Makes 88 between me and my brother. Yes. Somebody else that I know that's a twin was born like at 44 minutes after the other twin. Interstate 44 and decommissioned US 66. I'll be 66 on December 4th. Get your kicks on Route 66. Thanks, Betty. Yes, God is awesome. All praises and glory to Yahweh. Look at the obelisk. It's in the same spot as the nail in the Messiah's foot. Yes, that's absolutely correct. When they would pierce the foot, that's exactly where it went through. And that's what the first prophecy of the Bible was talking about. God knew at that moment when sin entered the garden that there'd be enmity between the two seeds. The seed of the woman is Jesus Christ, and he was in fact pierced in the heel when he was crucified. This is why at that point the devil started to copy, because he knew that Christ would have to be pierced in the heel to save the world. So the devil started making counterfeit Christ religions, which has confused everybody because they're like, oh, Christianity is just a copy. It's copying other older Mithraic religions. That stuff came first. It's just copies of it. It's copies of Odin and all these stories where the same thing happened. No, the devil knew the plan and copied it before it happened. It's like Terminator going back in time, trying to kill the seed of the woman, John Connor, Jesus Christ, so that he could not be born, so no one would follow him and believe and be saved. Why do you think they pierced the bait? Let's look it up. While we're here, let's make this a complete show. Newborn infant screening. We interviewed a woman years ago. Her name was Twyla Brace, and she was an advocate for the patient privacy rights of infants who had their heels pierced and their blood smeared on a card. What do you think a card is backwards? Drac, D-R-A-C, is card backwards. That's why they put it on a card. It's the serpent bruising the child in the heel. Infant, newborn, screening, heel. Are you awake yet? I hope you are. The dragon, Drac card, pierced in the heel from birth. What you're looking at here is a crucifixion ritual. Already. Who are they looking for? They're probably looking for the last day's remnant. 144,000 saints who will be the only ones really standing up for the truth and fighting back against the dragon in the last days. Everyone else will pretty much be deceived, or most will be deceived. The love of most will grow cold, lose their love of the truth. This is all in the Bible. What you're looking at here is essentially a crucifixion ritual. Now, what Twyla found was that they were saving these cards in these huge warehouses for decades. They were literally saving the blood of these children. Can you imagine these vampires? They probably pull these cards out and like lick them and get like adrenochrome off of it. Like serpents. Then what she found was the United States military and Texas A&M were pulling these cards out and using the DNA off of these to do DNA experiments. Who knows what they were up to? Could have been super soldier programs. We don't know. Or maybe they were looking for stuff. Look at this. This is the diagram that they give the nurses of where to pierce the heel. It's literally the same thing that we saw in DC with the pyramid. Unfreaking believable. I can't even deal with this right now. Wow. This is why we're so screwed up. All right. I know this is a lot of truth today, you guys, but somebody asked me, what does it all mean? That's what it all means. Now you know. It's always been about human sacrifice. That's what war is. This is why you never, ever, 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 ever sign up to be sacrificed. Now, unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess you can say, some of us play a different role in the last days, right? This is my whole life, has been looking at this stuff. Well, the whole last 13 years, I guess. So, you know, this isn't a road that everyone can take or wants to take. But I made a promise to God 13 years ago when I started this channel that if he showed me the truth, that I would spread it far and wide. I didn't care what I had to give up in my life because, you know, it's kind of scary, some of this stuff. You know, you become ostracized. Why do you think I'm out here in the woods by myself? Because most people don't go on this road. But that doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to tell you the truth. Right? And give up maybe some of the things that other people get to enjoy in this life. Like a 6-figure income or whatever they think it is that makes them happy. But this is the road that I've been put on by the Most High. This is what he showed. Now let's show you the proof of. Let's go to the, I think it was Texas Tribune newborn infant screening. Let's see if the story is still there. Texas Tribune ran a story on this. Here, I think this is it. And they exposed that they were holding these cards all across the U.S. in these banks, 5 million infant blood spots, that the military was using this without informing the parents. Control F. Let's see if it says it in here. No, it doesn't say it in here, but it says it in the military was using the blood cards. And they didn't tell us what they were using them for. They just went into a bank, pulled these cards out, and started using them with genetic studies. Unbelievable. Here, let me show you Twyla Brace. Hopefully she's still around. She's a hero. We interviewed her years ago. She's even warning about the Real ID. We've been warning about that. Everyone's like, oh, don't worry about facial recognition. Now look where we are with Palantir and the flock cameras. Oh, but when we were saying it, we were conspiracy theorists. Oh, we're never going to have cameras everywhere. Let's see, newborn infant screening. Because she talks about this. Privacy. So, she's from Minnesota, activist group. So, all right. I think we beat that horse to death. But I like to show you guys the receipts. So you know I'm not just some weird conspiracy theorist on here making all this up. This is all very real. But very few know this. Like literally just the people on this channel know this. And so you're blessed because you know the truth. Now you can know how to live your life without walking into the traps of the enemy. You know what it's really all about. But true love is wanting to share that truth with other people and willing to give up whatever it is we think we're holding on to by not sharing that truth. Does that make sense? I'm trying to be the example by giving up literally everything I used to be to share the truth with you. My kids think I'm a little bit weird. I'm out here in the forest, you know. So, all right. Privacy is a myth. Well, it didn't used to be a myth. It is now because we allowed it to be a myth. Okay? When we allowed the digital technocracy to rise, that is when now it is a myth. Now it isn't private, but we let that happen because not enough people stood up when people were trying to warn people about how they were infringing on our privacy. What we kept hearing was, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong, so why should I have to worry? Well, that's not the point. The point is, when they have all this data on you, they can now control you, they can blackmail you, they can do whatever they want. So, every generation thinks it's the last. Yes, but this is different. Technology. We talked a little bit about this on yesterday's show. How technology has reached kind of it's crazy. You can even say the last 50 years, we went from from analog to digital. And now we are on a collision course with some kind of singularity that no one really knows what's actually going to happen. But yeah. Heck, remember 2012 when we started this channel, we thought it was the end of the world. But here we are. So, top-down control. The prison grid. Yes, that's a really great way to put it. I love how you guys can articulate some of this stuff better than me. Sometimes I get tongue-tied. But yes, it is a prison grid. All right. The fear of the singularity is how they try to control us. Whistleblowers have exposed that these people will use tech to storm heaven and throw God off his throne. Criminally insane. I think that's their goal. That's what they think. They want to elevate themselves above the Most High. This is what the Bible says that the devil will try to do. So yes, there will be some kind of technology that the devil thinks he can use against God. I mean, Trump started the Space Force, right? You have to wonder what this is really all about. Is this in preparation for Armageddon? Probably. So, California governor backed off using AI because I think they realized they would lose their jobs, says Barry. Yes, they are criminally insane. All right, you guys. Well, we've been on here a long time. I want you guys to share this video. So if I find anything else between today and tomorrow, I'll do a show tomorrow. If there's anything you want me to look at for tomorrow's show, put that in the comments. I do read all the comments. I mean, that's one great benefit to the channel being relatively small is that I'm able to see every single comment, and you guys see that I heart almost every single comment. So if there's something you want me to look at and it's relevant for tomorrow's show, I will profile that on tomorrow's show. The big toe in the water. Yes, in the swamp. Absolutely. So, all right, we're going to end it here, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Much love, everybody. Thanks for your participation. Take care and be safe.